UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees says almost 500,000 Palestinians have now been driven out of Rafah in the last week. About 1 million had been sheltering there. Israeli forces are pushing into the city, claiming it is the last stronghold for the Hamas terror group. The United Nations says no food has entered the two main border crossings in southern Gaza for a week, and saying roughly 1.1 million Palestinians face catastrophic levels of hunger and they're on the brink of starvation. The UN declared last week a full-blown famine is taking place to the north. NewsNation's Robert Sherman is following all of it for us. He is live in Tel Aviv with the latest. Robert, what's been the reaction to this latest arms shipment? What are you hearing on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, obviously here, Marni, there was a lot of talk with the comments that were made by President Biden last week, in which he said that if the Israelis continue on with that Rafah operation, that he would not be supplying the weapons. But the White House is clarifying and making distinctions here in which that they say that the reason that that particular weapons shipment last week was put on hold, or that announcement came last week, is because as they feared that those kind of weapons would be used in densely populated areas. And their fear was that that was the wrong kind of weapon in order to be used there and could have an impact on civilian populations there. Now, that being said, the White House is making clear that they still intend to send arms to Israel to defend them against Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and other proxy groups. So they are making that distinction here in that it's not a matter of aiding an ally or not, but tailoring it based upon the operations that are at hand here. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversations about the United States and Israel and the relationship between these two allies. The Israeli government coming out today saying this. Take a listen.
That our relationship with the US is extremely important to us. The US are, of course, our closest ally in the world. So that relationship remains extremely paramount to us, and not least for all the support they've provided Israel over the last 7 months and the ongoing support.
Nevertheless, the U.S.'s position has not changed. They do not want to see an Israeli operation of massive scale taking place inside of Rafah. They said they have not seen indications that that has begun yet, but Israel's public comments suggest that they have no intention of backing down from that plan. Marni.
Robert, the U.S. is pushing Israel to have a plan after the war ends in Gaza. Have they said what they would like that to look like?
Yeah, I mean, the message that we've even heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu re-upped a short while ago is that they don't feel comfortable having these public conversations about a plan for Gaza after the war is over until Hamas has been destroyed. They don't believe that they can start those talks and put any mechanisms in motion until those objectives have been accomplished. And they say, once again today, that they believe there are 4 battalions that are still sheltering inside of Rafah. The U.S.'s perspective is very different on this, and they point to the fact that they've seen some of Hamas battalions reforming in central and northern Gaza. Their fears is that if there is not a plan put in motion soon, then this is just a glimpse of what is to come, and that you will see Hamas effectively either A, trying to retake control of Gaza, or B, some group reoccupying that vacuum that would be created by Hamas and their destruction there. So that's why they're pushing the Israelis to come up with some kind of a plan to govern Gaza after the war is over. But at this juncture, the Israelis not keen on discussing that publicly. Marni.
Understood. All right, Robert, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.